they overwhelmingly approve a $1 billion tax relief package. This thing has been pushed off the headlines because the debacle's going on with the Virginia Democrats. But this thing is so huge, and it is a great tax package. Here's the good news. Northam's going to sign it because he can't get to yes fast enough. Ralph Northam has to get blackface off the headlines, Ku Klux Klan outfits and pictures off the headlines, resigning off the headlines, and he's got to get something done. So that's how they got this done. He can't get to yes fast enough. So yesterday, the Virginia House of Delegates and the Senate approving legislation that will provide $1 billion, that's with a B, tax relief for Virginia's taxpayers. And joining us now to talk about it, House of Delegates member Glenn Davis. Remember, Glenn Davis also ran for lieutenant governor in 2017, finishing third to Vogel and Bryce Reeves. Now, if he was lieutenant governor, a lot of this stuff wouldn't be happening. But he is a House of Delegates member from Virginia Beach. Some people say he might run for Congress. We'll ask him about that towards the end. Glenn, good to have you with us.
John, thanks for having me. And you're right. This is exciting with what's been going on and the tax relief that we're about to give all Virginians.
Now, explain it in Glenn Davis mode, which one of the best things you do, Glenn, is breaking things down and just telling it to people in layman's terms. What is this tax cut? What will it mean to people in Virginia?
Well, John, I mean, it's really simple. I think Hugo and a number of our people on the floor have done a great job of helping people understand exactly what it means to them. The first thing is, who does this really help? And $50,000 or less are going to receive 40% of all the rebate checks. Those making $100,000 or more will receive or less will receive 70% of all the rebate checks. If you're a married couple, you're going to receive an average of $392 in tax relief over the next 2 years, on top of typically what you would get and what you're going to save anyway from the Trump tax cuts, right, John?
Right.
So it's an amazing scenario. The standard deduction is going to increase 50%, $4,500 for an individual, $9,000 for a couple. Mm-hmm. It's just amazing how much money we've been able to put out there when we looked at complying and put everything together with what the feds have done with their tax code, and it's gonna be a huge opportunity for Virginians to have more money in their pocket, more disposable income, and honestly more money for the small businesses to grow.
All right, so Glenn Davis, the number one thing they wanted to do with this new tax plan was conformity. They wanted it to conform the federal plan, and they've done that not this year, but starting next year, right? Because they've increased starting next year the deductible by 50%, single $4,500, couple $9,000, so that if you don't itemize on your federal taxes, then you don't want to itemize on your state taxes because you have these high deductibles. So that would bring that into conformity. That's number one. Obviously, if you itemize, and it goes back to the way it was, and that's everybody's individual option. So that goes into play for next year's taxes. So everybody understands. So what they did this year is they said, okay, we're just going to make this simple, right? We can't get all this done. There's too much. People are doing their taxes now. I mean, they got 60 days here to do their taxes. So what the General Assembly did was say, okay, we're just going to give everybody a check back, right? Because we're going to get all this extra money in. So if you're single, you're going to get $110, right? If you're married, you're going to get $220. Is that basically the way it works?
That's basically the way it works, yeah. I mean, it's what they're calling the rebate checks that we're processing this year, and to make sure we start getting people, money back.
So that check back is a rebate or a refund because you've not fixed the conformity issue until next year because you're too late in the process now, right? Right. So instead of going through all the machinations and having to deal with new accountants and all that, you're simply going to get a check back. But then when you file your 2019 taxes in 2020, state taxes in Virginia, they'll conform with the federal code. So likely if you itemize on federal, you want to itemize on state, that's your option. And if you want to take the standard deductions on the federal, then you're going to have the better opportunity to take those standard deductions in the state taxes so that they come into conformity and you're saving money on both ends. Right now, the problem is the way the code is written in Virginia. If you take the standard deduction on the federal taxes, the standard deduction on the Virginia taxes, like you can't bait and switch. And the problem with that is the deductions for standard in Virginia are too low. And so people would actually end up paying higher state taxes. But now they're going to get a rebate back to compensate for that. That was the cleanest, simplest, fastest way to get this done. How did you guys get this through all the Dems?
Well, John, if you saw the votes the other day, it was tough. I mean, we needed 80 votes to get this thing in play, and so people could start filing their taxes now. The first votes came in at about, I think it was 74, 76. It was difficult. There was a lot of negotiation going on after that. The Democrats broke for a couple of meetings and a couple caucuses in the middle of the floor debates. And eventually, we got enough people to come around. And when we got into 80, all of a sudden we hit 96, right? So, it's just once that threshold was broken. But we're excited. I mean, you're right. It's, next year everything is in place with the higher standard deductions. But, one thing that we want to make sure is how do we make sure we help those people this year? And those are the rebates. So we make good this year, and we give everyone the higher standard deductions next year. It's exciting, and it's great that it didn't necessarily start out bipartisan, but it turned into bipartisan.
We're with Glenn Davis, House of Delegates member, Virginia Beach, ran for lieutenant governor 2017, and one of the main proponents of this. And Davis, as you know, a unifier, works across party lines all the times to get things done, and he's a business guy. So here, let's just sum this up, because the governor says he's going to sign it. And Glenn, just my narrative, not anything to do with your position on it. Had the blackface picture not happened to the governor, he never would have signed this. But my view is he needs something to get him off the headlines. That's why I think he's going with it. But that's just my conjecture, okay?
Sure.
It returns $976 million to taxpayers from the individual provisions of the Trump tax cut. It provides a refund that you'll get in October 2019, $110 for individuals, $220 for couples. It increases the standard deduction to $4,500 for an individual, $9,000 for a couple, starting when you file 2019 taxes, state taxes in 2020, and maintains the current state law on state and local taxes, preventing a double tax hike on homeowners. It also is going to include a 20% of net interest expenses, right? Explain what that means.
So, you have the interest expenses that people deduct now, and there was a lot of discussion of what do we do with that, and there was some discussion of that potentially going away, especially with what had gone on in the federal code. So we're going to continue to allow that deduction for 20% of net interest expenses, so people who itemize can still claim that on their taxes.
All right, so that makes a lot of sense. So basically, when it's all said and done, 2018 taxes, you're going to get a rebate. 2019 state taxes, they're going to conform with the federal code. So by and large, everybody's paying less money, right? That's just the bottom line of this.
That's by and large, yep.
All right, Glenn Davis. So, Glenn, good job there. What is your other top priority now with a couple weeks remaining?
Well, the biggest one, John, it's, I've talked on your show a number of years about this process by which insurance companies are allowed to override your doctor's treatments that they suggest when you're facing significant diseases, cancer, et cetera. And we want to try to always provide more transparency and reasonableness to that process. That, after 4 years, is finally going to pass. It's for the first. I've never gotten it out of committee before. This year, I got it to the floor. It passed the floor overwhelmingly. It's in the Senate. We've the other side has agreed to let it go this year and pass it out. So we're finally going to have step therapy processes reformed in Virginia, so there's more transparency and reasonableness, and insurance companies won't have the same ability to as quickly to go and override that doctor when they're suggesting certain treatments that in many cases, well, in almost all cases are quality life involving, and in some cases could be life and death involving. So that's a big one that I'm really excited to kind of have out there and get through. And then, we've had a lot of other, big wins, some dealing with helping those on free and reduced lunches be able to get on them a little bit easier, which impacts our schools. The one I wanted, John, which is going to have to come back next year, is increasing the number of medical CBD licenses in Virginia. The success that medical CBD oil has had to help those with serious illness has been tremendous, and in many cases it's been able to be prescribed in lieu of opioids. And we all know the impact of opioid addiction and has had in Virginia. But there's no way we get enough supply off of 5 licensees. So we were trying to go to 10 this year. We had a problem with the existing 5 licensees not wanting that. We'll work on that over the summer. But that's going to be another big one that's going to be important to come back.
All right. Well, I tell you what, all the things you've been working on are coming into fruition. Glenn Davis, 2nd District of Virginia federal race, current Congresswoman, Democrat Elaine Lauria. Speculation out there that Glenn Davis might be a candidate for Congress 2020. True or false?
False. I can't say it's false. Some people might be speculating, John, but I can tell you that I'm not looking at it, if that helps. There's no way. I like getting stuff done. You and I have had the conversations. I'll serve, in whatever capacity that I feel that I can make a difference, and it's worth the sacrifice to my business and to my family. And I just don't think being one of 435 people in Congress right now is going to be something where I think that that's worth the sacrifice to my family. I like to walk in the door and get stuff done, and especially being in the minority up there. I'm not quite sure whether people may be annoyed with me and want to push me out a window, whether I may want to jump out one myself. But some things will have to change in Washington before I'd ever be interested in going up there.
Glenn Davis, not a candidate for Congress 2020. I can say that, right?
You can say that.
Glenn Davis, not a candidate for 2020. Chris Stolle, not a candidate for 2020. Frank Wagner, not a candidate for 2020 in Congress. That leaves Jason Mieres, candidate for Congress 2020. Or maybe John Moss, right? You never know. John Fredericks Radio Network. Those are my 2 speculatives right now. I know Ben Loyola is running, 3-time failed candidate, cannot win. I think they need someone new. And I'm going to continue to say that. I like Ben. He's a good guy, but I won't back him because I've been there, done that. That district needs somebody new, somebody fresh and different. And you lose 3 races, it's time to find a different career. Glenn, turmoil of your state leaders right now. Mm-hmm. Ralph Northam coming out with a statement the other day. It's like every time he comes out, he keeps digging himself a bigger hole. I thought his interview with Gayle King was bizarre, even more bizarre than his press conference on Saturday, which was even worse than his press conference the preceding Friday, which was even worse than his interview with the Washington Post. So I've lost all track of what this guy is trying to do. But he's not going to resign. Can he effectively lead?
John, that's the question that I guess we're about to try to find out. I can tell you perceptually, it looks like it'd be very problematic. How does one do that when the focus is on them? On these issues. I mean, you saw Saturday Night Live just like I did. The attention Virginia and the administration has right now is not one of highlighting policies and things. It's one of highlighting statements and like you said, missteps. So he's going to have to turn this around and get things focused back again. It's going to be very difficult to say the least. We'll wait and see. Obviously, we have another 10 days, I think, left in session. But we need to make sure that that we're able to continue to have a Virginia that focuses on what we need to do to be competitive and move things forward. Other states are not going to stand still over the next year, and there's a lot of economic opportunities that are available right now for us to go after. But we got to shake this cloud over our head. So We'll see, but it won't be the easiest challenge she's ever had. That's for sure.
Well, he's going to stay. So I guess all the calls for him to resign have gone unheeded. The Democratic Party of Virginia has to deal with it as far as his ability to do events with them. That's really not you as a Republican and just as a state legislator, not your deal. But he's not going anywhere. And so we'll have to see what plays out. Meantime, here's the good news. He's going to sign this tax bill. And it's a great thing for Virginia, and he wouldn't have signed it. In my judgment, there's no way this guy would have signed it if he was not embroiled in this. But he can't get to yes fast enough. So I think there'll be other things you'll be able to get done because the governor is just looking for something to deflect away from this debacle he's in. All right, what about the State Attorney General Mark Herring, who called on Northam to resign for blackface, and then 2 days after that, he's in a picture with blackface. What did you make of that?
Yeah, no. Well, I think Mark said that he's. Well, the last comment I thought I heard Mark make, and I think he made this in a statement, was he doesn't know if it would be proper for him to stay on as Attorney General, but that will be coming forth in a couple of days. I don't know if he's officially come out one way or the other. Obviously, he does and is planning on staying. So I don't think he's going to be looking at resigning either, and will be kind of undergoing the same process that the governor is to try to recapture some things.
He's done. I don't know what his political future is, but to me, the hypocrisy of Attorney General Mark Herring's beyond the pale. I mean, he calls on Northam to resign, and then we find out he did the same thing as the governor did, but now he's not going to resign. I mean, the hypocrisy of these people is just beyond any layman's comprehension. 1 minute remaining. Justin Fairfax, a second allegation coming out the other day. Pretty scary stuff. Everybody's called on Fairfax to resign. He says right now he's not. What do you make of that? I mean, having been a candidate for that position, Lieutenant Governor, Glenn, how do you assess that situation?
I was kind of surprised that Patrick Hope didn't drop the articles of impeachment that he had said he was going to drop. Just that asked for an investigation, and that's right. And I can appreciate he wants an investigation. This is not in the FBI's purview, and so I think Patrick was looking at dropping this as a way to, and it would cause an investigation. So I was kind of surprised when that did not get dropped. And so Justin's under, probably the biggest cloud of all three of them. I think that there's, in the next coming days, you may see more and hear more about, what may or may not be happening in the General Assembly and potential actions that can be taken. There's only so much that we can do, but that is probably the most concerning one. And I thought that Patrick Hope was going to drop those articles on Monday, like he had given the press conference about. At that point, the investigation that the lieutenant governor had said he wanted would have come forward, and both ladies said that they would have testified. So I don't know what at this particular moment is in the cards, but obviously, nothing's over yet.
Final question: do you think that articles of impeachment should be drawn up? Yes or no?
So not being an attorney, John, the one thing that it seemed like was the way to get the investigation that the lieutenant governor was asking for. What a lot of people aren't quite sure is how else you actually get an investigation. One of these issues happened in a different state. This is not federal, so there's no federal purview. So it's kind of uncertain without that. Where does this investigation? How does investigation happen? So I thought that would have solved and supplied what everyone, including the lieutenant governor himself, was asking for. But we'll wait and see whether something like that happens again.
Glenn, as always, we appreciate your refreshing enlightenment and candor on the John Fredericks Radio Network. Thank you so much, and congratulations on a great tax cut plan. I'm so excited for everybody in Virginia and for the General Assembly in working together with that. Thank you so much.